Good morning, aloha, and welcome to Virtual Live at the Legislature. I'm Carolyn Tanaka, and joining me this morning is Representative Linda Ichiyama. She represents District 32, and that is Moanaloa Valley, Aliamanu, and Salt Lake. Go Menahunis, right? Moanaloa Menahunis.
Yes, go Menahunis.
Thank you for joining us this morning. You are also the co-convener of the Women's Legislative Caucus. And most recently, you have been called into action by the Speaker of the House and Alan Oshima, who is the point person on the governor's economic recovery team. And specifically, your mission, should you choose to take it, is to work on the issue of childcare as we restart our economy. So it has become pretty evident that in the recovery of the economy, childcare services are going to be essential services. So can you talk a little bit about how you got involved and what your responsibilities are?
Sure. Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you for having me. So it kind of got started because as a co-convener of the Women's Legislative Caucus, I was concerned about the voices of women in our plans for economic recovery. And we all know that women have been uniquely impacted by this COVID-19 crisis. Women are the primary caregivers. When kids have to stay home from school, women are working from home and being a full-time parent. And women are most often the ones, we're the majority of the workers in the healthcare sector as well. So we're on the front line taking care of patients, taking care of the elderly, working in care homes. And we wanted to make sure that women were part of the conversation for economic recovery. So when I reached out to Alan to ask him about his plans for inclusive women, he was very receptive and wanted to be engaged in the conversation. And then it kind of came about when he said, "Oh, and what about childcare?" And I said, "Sure, okay." And from there, it kind of just rolled into working with Department of Human Services, which licenses and regulates the majority of our childcare seats in the state, and then talking with different providers, like and the kids who have never closed their doors throughout this entire time, to schools to open, and what does that look like for them? What are their challenges?
And so, excuse me, and you've been going out and talking to the advocates and to the child care facilities people. What are they telling you?
I would say the biggest problem out there is concern about what are the circumstances under which they can reopen. And I don't think that's unique to childcare. I think every business is struggling with that, right? How do I protect my customers? In this case, how do I protect the kids who come to my facility? How do I protect their families? And in Hawaii, we have so many multi-generational households, right? Where we have kids living with grandpa and grandma, right? We want to make sure that everyone stays safe, especially too for the childcare workers, who many of them are also on the older side, right? They want to make sure that they're in a safe environment when they come back to work. So we've been working together with the Economic Navigator as well as with the Department of Human Services to work on draft guidelines that would be used specifically for the childcare industry. And so we turned that over to the AG office. I know they're finalizing it and working on how that will be rolled out for providers. We also sought provider input on the draft. So we asked them, is it feasible? How will this work? Their biggest response was that because of the social distancing requirements, because of the limited group size, right? You can't have more than 10 in a space anymore. That's going to completely turn the business model for childcare upside down.
Are you optimistic, though, that it'll work itself out and we will all adapt to it? Or do you think some of the childcare facilities will not be able to economically survive? What is your take on it?
What I'm hearing from providers is that they could survive like this for a short time, but not permanently, and that they're going to need some kind of subsidy to make it work, because their model is based on teacher-student ratios right now. And if you change that, childcare already operates in such razor-thin margins, right? A lot of these organizations are nonprofits, so they don't have a big savings or reserves to rely on. So they're going to need some kind of subsidy. And we've been working with the Department of Human Services to try and look at their childcare development block grants to see how that might be able to be used to help providers, but that's not gonna be enough. If we're looking at operating like this for 6 months to a year, they're gonna need some more help.
Well, I'm sure that there's a lot more in the hopper on that, and I'm sure that you will be putting your childcare hat and mama and representative hat on to work with the partners and find a solution. The other area that I know that you've been heavily involved in as a member of the Women's Legislative Caucus is the issue of domestic violence abuse. And I know that that is a concern because it is a concern, especially in light of the fact that prisoners are being released from the prison because of the COVID risk, and several of them probably are domestic abusers. The House, we put a proviso on the judiciary supplemental budget saying that that the judiciary needs to report weekly on who they are releasing. What is your opinion on that? Do you think it's a good thing?
I do think it's a good thing. I think we need more information from the judiciary on what's happening. Back in April, when the first discussion was happening about inmates being released, there was a letter sent to the judiciary on behalf of a number of victims' organization asking for basic things like prior notice before an offender is released so that they can notify a victim and they can safety plan. Because everybody's being forced to stay at home, trying to safety plan under quarantine orders is very difficult, especially if you're on the neighbor island, right? And traveling to find safety and shelter from the neighbor island with the 14-day quarantine has been another barrier for victims.
Well, I'd like to, we've got a minute. Actually, we have no minutes left because we've got a little shorter show today because of the Senate. But I'd love to have you back on to talk more about some of the other issues that you're involved in, especially in this COVID era. But thank you for joining us this morning, Representative. And thank you to all of you who zoomed in to join us. And we will see you next week on Virtual Live at the Legislature. I'm Carolyn Tanaka. Aloha.
What are you doing? We have to go. I'm gonna be late for work.
It's Tuesday morning. I gotta record live at the legislature on Alelo. Senate and House leadership discussing what's happening at the state capitol.
So just watch it on the news tonight. Come on, let's go.
Hey, this is like getting the news before it's news. If only I could get this remote to work.
There. Can we go now?
No DVR? No problem. Watch Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. on Channel 49.